Hey there, basketball fans! Today, we're diving into the fascinating world of NBA trade assets and ranking every team based on their current stash. Get ready for some intense analysis and my personal takes on who's loaded and who's barren when it comes to potential trades. First up, let me tell you, the NBA just had one of the craziest off-seasons ever, so it's the perfect time to reset and see where each team stands in terms of trade value. Some teams have spent their assets, while others are sitting pretty with a stockpile. Now, ranking these teams is a bit subjective, but we've carefully examined draft details, cap sheets, and considered upcoming league trends. We've even listed some valuable picks and contracts, and speculated on who might be untouchable. Because, let's face it, that can make or break a team's trade value. For example, if the San Antonio Spurs were to make Victor Wembanyama available, they'd instantly be at the top of the list. But, as we all know, that's highly unlikely. So, we've factored that into our ranking. Let's start with the Phoenix Suns. They're pretty low on the list, mainly because they've traded away a lot of their future picks. And with Devin Booker's recent extension, it might be tough to find suitors willing to take on that contract. Moving on to the Miami Heat, they had some decent trade assets, but then they went and traded for Giannis Antetokounmpo. That move limits their ability to unload some of those picks, especially with the Stepien rule in play. The Denver Nuggets could probably get some value out of Aaron Gordon or Cam Johnson, but their draft assets are limited, and the Stepien rule might prevent them from offering their first-round picks outright. The Los Angeles Lakers have already spent most of their draft capital, and their valuable players, like Austin Reeves and Walker Kessler, are ineligible to be traded for a while. The Minnesota Timberwolves are essentially tapped out in terms of draft assets, and the Stepien rule prevents them from offering their first-round picks. They could use some sweeteners to sweeten deals, but it's a tough spot. The Toronto Raptors are assuming the Kawhi Leonard trade will go through, which limits their draft capital. And let's be real, it's hard to imagine them flipping Leonard after giving up multiple first-round picks for him. The New York Knicks, fresh off their championship, don't need to think much about trades. They have little reason to break up their winning core. The Milwaukee Bucks are still recovering from the Giannis era, but the trade itself has helped them reset a bit. Those Miami Heat picks could be valuable down the line. The Cleveland Cavaliers have a couple of players who'd bring a lot in trades, like Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley. But they don't have a ton of unencumbered draft capital. The Los Angeles Clippers are in limbo until the league decides on the Kawhi Leonard trade. If it's nixed, they might have to rebuild around Keaton Wagler. The Dallas Mavericks would be higher on the list if Cooper Flagg were available, but with Nico Harrison gone, those inexplicable trades are probably a thing of the past. The Boston Celtics already unloaded Jaylen Brown, and they're likely in their final 2026-27 form. That Philadelphia first in 2031 could be valuable, but they've already pivoted away from that philosophy. The Sacramento Kings are in good shape with their future first-round picks, which are extra valuable for an organization with a bad history. Zach LaVine might be enticing to a team looking for financial flexibility. The Philadelphia 76ers could go star hunting with VJ Edgecombe, but they're likely to enter the season with their star-loaded roster and see how it goes. The Indiana Pacers are in great shape with their own picks, but their organizational stability might hurt them here. They could get decent returns for Pascal Siakam or Andrew Nembhard, but they'll likely want to see how the group looks with Tyrese Halliburton back. The New Orleans Pelicans have access to most of their future firsts and a volume three-point shooter in Trey Murphy. But some of their biggest name players come with injury concerns. The Golden State Warriors have been poo-pooed for their trade assets, but Jimmy Butler being out for potentially all of this season makes him an interesting trade piece. And those Warriors picks will likely be in the lottery after Stephen Curry is gone. The Chicago Bulls landed a potential superstar, and they should patiently build around him and their future firsts and seconds. But if they wanted to take a shortcut, they have plenty of draft capital to do so. The Detroit Pistons control all of their own first-round picks, which is a big deal for a team that might be in the playoffs for the foreseeable future. Jalen Duren and Orza Thompson are valuable players, but the biggest strength is probably that Detroit has all its picks. The Atlanta Hawks have a few of their own firsts and a potential first from either New Orleans or Milwaukee in 2027. They also have a handful of solid talents on manageable salaries. The Orlando Magic are still feeling the Desmond Bane trade, but they have their far-flung picks and a healthy number of seconds. Their real strength is in their talented individual players. The Portland Trail Blazers have plenty of their own picks and those swaps with the Milwaukee Bucks. They also have Drew Holiday, who could be an interesting veteran addition. The Charlotte Hornets have more than enough trade ammo to improve their team. Beyond their own firsts, those far-flung firsts from Minnesota and Phoenix are highly coveted. The Utah Jazz could be ready to compete for a playoff spot as early as this season. They have a frontcourt that's not easy to beat, but they could also justify moves in any direction. The Washington Wizards have all of their firsts between now and 2033, and some chances to move up in 2028 and 2029. They're absolutely loaded with young talent they could aggregate and ship out. The Memphis Grizzlies have a mountain of draft capital and some interesting veterans on easy-to-move deals. Isaiah Stewart and Ty Jerome are valuable players. The Houston Rockets are well stocked with firsts and have some players that would help them add to that stash. Kevin Durant and Alperen Sengun are valuable assets. The Brooklyn Nets have valuable first-round picks, and that 2032 first from Denver could be one of the better individual assets. They also have Michael Porter Jr. on an expiring contract. The San Antonio Spurs would be higher if Dylan Harper were available, but there's no reason they'd ever consider moving him, especially with all those picks headed their way. And finally, the Oklahoma City Thunder are in a great situation. They have a strong young core, a mountain of draft picks, and a perennial title contender status. So, there you have it, folks. A deep dive into the world of NBA trade assets and a ranking of every team. Personally, I think it's fascinating to see how these teams are positioned and how they might leverage their assets in the future. What do you think? Any teams that surprised you with their ranking? Let's discuss in the comments.